Hello there, very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1. For the news first, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this afternoon.
Opposition alleged of a conspiracy to remove the central bank governor.
මේ කැපකිරීම කළා මේ රටට ආපු මිනිස්සයව ආපහු යවලා මේ තමන්ගේ ගජමිතුරෙක්ව ওই තනතුර දාගන්න කරන කුමන්ත්‍රණයනේ.
How long will it take to obtain the first IMF tranche?
වෙන සාමාන්‍ය කාලයක නම් මීට 16 වතාවක් මීට කලින් වුණේ ස්ටාබ්ලිෂ් ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එකක් කියන්නේ ඊළඟ සතියක් ඇතුළත IMF එකට ගිහලා සල්ලි හම්බ වෙනවා. නමුත් දැන් අපි ඩෙට් සස්ටේනබල් නැති නිසා අපි ඩෙට් රීස්ට්‍රක්චර් කරලා ෆයිනෑන්ෂල් ඇෂුරන්ස් එකක් කියලා ගන්න ඕනේ ක්‍රෙඩිටර්ස් ලගේ.
Central bank must be depoliticized ahead of the IMF disbursement, says IMF mission chief. More than 20,000 public service employees to go on retirement this year. Maximum retail price for multiple medical devices. Litro gas to drop prices again on Monday. Record run chase puts Sri Lanka in Super 4 of Asia Cup 2022.
On to your top story this afternoon. Sri Lanka's opposition leader Sajith Premadasa alleged there's a conspiracy afoot to remove central bank governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe.
Sajith Premadasa said when the central bank governor was invited to the parliament on Wednesday to apprise the member on the current economic status and the way forward, several MPs put forward statement in the nature of making allegations. He said that in parliament on Thursday, certain remarks was made to insinuate that the central bank governor was responsible for the present state of economy. Sajith Premadasa warned that if attempts are being made to drive away the central bank governor who made sacrifices and returned to the country in a bid to appoint henchmen as the head of the central bank, it can be viewed as a conspiracy and it cannot be accepted. He slammed the government for such conduct, adding that invitations for an all-party government are turned down solely because of such a conduct. Leader of the House, Minister Susil Premajayantha said when allegations are made, it is wise to understand the past issues as well. Chairman of the Committee on Public Finance, Dr. Harsha De Silva slammed the allegations that claim the central bank governor acted on his own whim and fancy to lead the country into dire straits it is in today. He said the Hansard would bear witnesses to the claims made by former State Minister of Money and Capital Markets Ajit Nivard Cabral, who spoke on behalf of the Finance Minister, stating that Sri Lanka had over $2 billion in reserves. He said Cabral misled the Parliament and the government and slammed the ruling faction for spreading propaganda that Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe was responsible for the economic crisis. Former Finance Minister, President's Counsel Ali Sabri said he was in a dilemma on whether to serve debt or use the money for essential, citing that there were limited reserves at the time, and defended the decisions made by Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe as the governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. SJB MP Eran Wickramaratne stressed to Parliament that former Central Bank Governor Ajit Nivard Cabral must be held accountable along with his group of officers for the present status of Sri Lanka's economy. He also reminded the House that it was Cabral who made a public statement that there was no relationship between money printing and the depreciation of the local rupee in the foreign currency market.
Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, explained to parliamentarians the process in which IMF contributions will be given.
Staff level agreement එකකින් පසුව
Are we getting the financial tranches of the IMF after the staff level agreement and after discussing with bilaterals, multilaterals and ISB holders, or are we getting a dollar injection immediately after the staff level agreement?
සුව immediately financial dollar injection එකක් ලැබෙනවද කියන එක.
ස්ටාෆ් ලෙවල් ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එක කියන එකේ තමයි මේ වැඩපිළිවෙලේ පළවෙනි.
The staff level agreement is the crucial point in getting aid. Normally, when we went to the IMF 16 times, 6 weeks after the staff level agreement, we would get aid. But now, as our debt is not sustainable, before getting the $3 to $4 billion as agreed by the IMF, we need to get financial assurance from the creditors after restructuring our debt.
assurance එකක් කියලා ගන්න ඕන creditors ලගේ. පිටරටින් ණය ගත්ත අය
ඒ කියන්නේ bilaterals, multilaterals, ISB.
multilaterals අපි කොහොමද ගෙවන්න ඕනේ ඒක පැහැරලා නැහැ.
අදිමට චෝටි දෙයක් ISB දැන් ISB open market එකේ නේ තිබුණේ. ඒ වගේ bearers ලා කවුද කියලා දැන් අපි දන්නේ නැහැනේ.
දන්නේ නැහැ.
ඒතර එයාලා එක්ක කොහොමද මේ negotiation එක කරන්නේ?
ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ නියෝජිත මට්ටමට අපේ වගේ advisors ලා පත් කරලා තියෙනවා. representative ඉන්නවා. ඒතර ඒගොල්ලෝ එකතු වෙලා පත් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒගොල්ලත් එක්ක තමයි අපි සාකච්ඡා කරන්නේ මුලදී. තුනක් ඇතුළත tranches වලින් තමයි දෙන්නේ.
How many tranches?
Half yearly. Every half year there's a basically
So there'll be 6 tranches.
මම හිතන්නේ මේක යන වරුදු 4ක ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් එකක් මේ සැරේ කියන්නේ.
8.
8 tranches.
ඒ කියන්නේ මොන හරි lump sum figure එකක් තියනවද එකඟ වෙලා?
Extended fund facility එකේ normal access එක කියලා කියන්නේ about $3 billion. IMF එකෙන්. ඒක දෙනවත් එක්කම World Bank ADB වගේ වයින් තව additional support එකක් දෙනවා.
ඔව් ඒ දෙන්නේ bridge financing නේ?
නෑ bridge financing නෙමෙයි. අර ගාවට පස්සේ medium to long term budgetary financing කියලා දෙනවා.
Japanese Finance Minister Shunichi Suzuki on Friday urged all creditor nations to discuss Sri Lanka's debt restructuring after the crisis its South Asian nation reached a loan agreement with the International Monetary Fund.
Japanese Finance Minister Shunichi Suzuki said it's important for all creditor nations, including China and India, to gather to discuss Sri Lanka's debt restructuring. Sri Lanka reached a preliminary agreement with the IMF for a loan of about $2.9 billion as the country seeks a way out of its worst economic crisis since independence from Britain in 1948.
Sri Lankan High Commissioner to India Milinda Morogoda stated that New Delhi can explore developing the port city of Trincomalee as an energy hub. He spoke to the Indian Express on Thursday following the IMF staff-level agreement announcement in Colombo.
Sri Lankan High Commissioner to India Milinda Morogoda said on Thursday that the preliminary agreement with the International Monetary Fund, under which Sri Lanka nation stands to receive $2.9 billion to tackle the ongoing economic crisis, is a first step in the long haul of economic recovery, but will provide the country and investors confidence to attract increased investments and remittances. Speaking at the Indian Express Idea Exchange, Morogoda said that with the IMF agreement taking shape, Sri Lanka now expects more countries to offer assistance, while underlining that India was the only partner to have stepped up even without a framework in place. He said that though the money is not huge, it gives Sri Lanka confidence, one of investors to come in, for remittances to increase and for other bilaterals like Japan to step forward. The High Commission said Sri Lanka is grateful to India, which encouraged to go to the IMF. He appreciated the efforts made by India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and External Affairs Minister S. Jayashankar, who played a role in moving to the IMF. Following the IMF package, Morogoda identified power, oil and tourism as some of the areas which structural reforms through cooperation with India can help restore macroeconomic stability. He said that India can explore developing the port city of Trincomalee as an energy hub. The High Commission said that by using the relationship with India, he would work to bring in private investment in electricity generation, adding that it could mean new power plants in renewable energy or buying existing plants through a privatization process.
IMF Mission Chief to Sri Lanka, Peter Brewer, said that the Central Bank of Sri Lanka must be depoliticized. He was speaking to the BBC Sinhala service.
And in the statement you all have mentioned that new Central Bank Act which will depoliticize and restore independence of the Central Bank is must in the program. How do you see? Do you want it before the act in place before the board approves, or how do you see the timeline of it?
So moving as expeditiously as possible with the Central Bank Act is very important to restore price stability in Sri Lanka. At the moment, there's very high inflation in Sri Lanka, which on the one hand is the result of the large depreciation that has taken place, but also monetary financing, the printing of money at the central bank to finance the government in the absence of any other creditors is fueling inflation, and so restoring the independence of the central bank and eliminating monetary financing will be a very important part of ensuring that this does not happen, because essentially inflation is a very crude tax that's imposed on everybody and affects the poor and vulnerable the most, because they don't have the buffers to sustain it. So we envisage that the Central Bank Act that ensures proper independence of the central bank will be an important ingredient of restoring macroeconomic stability.
SLPP MP Jagat Kumar says IMF staff and the Sri Lankan authorities have reached a staff-level agreement to support Sri Lanka's economic policies with conditions. He made his remarks at a media briefing held at the SLPP headquarters in Nelum Mawatha.
The IMF agrees to provide the funds subject to conditions. Those conditions are very difficult to be followed. As a country, when we adhere to those conditions, objections will be raised by different parties. So we have been forced to implement a program so the people can be provided with essential goods, fuel and gas. I believe there was no requirement for the former president to leave the country. If he was under pressure to resign from his position, he could have done by staying in Sri Lanka. So he decided at that time he should leave the country. As a person who was born in Sri Lanka and holds citizenship, he can live in Sri Lanka. The government has a responsibility to fulfill his requirements. No one can take the law to their hands. Today it is implemented as usual.
Sri Lanka's former Chief Justice Sarath N. Silva stated, though he met with political leaders with a proposal to draft a new constitution for the country, it was not been given any due consideration.
දැන් ජීවිත කාලේ අවසන් වෙගෙන යන්නේ මම මේක සකස් කරන්න ඕන කියලා මම විවේක කරා එක සුමානක මම ලිව්වා කරන්න ඕන සංශෝධන මොනවද කියලා ලිව්වා.
I drafted a proposal for a new constitution and it is a 40-page document. I went and met Mahinda Rajapaksa. He tried to abolish my civic rights also. However, we are friends as well. I told him I have something like this, and to continue with his legacy, please submit this to the parliament. He responded, Sarath, I don't understand this. Then Ranil Wickremesinghe was not even an MP. Then I asked in jest, can I give this to Ranil Wickremesinghe? And he said, yes, give it to him. He can implement it, he said. Then I met Ranil Wickremesinghe. He reviewed it and said that he will present it. Can you take over the authorship? Then I said, Ranil, when they learn I drafted this, they will be against it. Then I said, can this be presented as if this was drafted by a committee? Then he said, he'll involve Mangala Samaravira to this. Then in 2 weeks, Mangala Samaravira passed away. Then I submitted this to Dinesh Gunawardena. He also agreed this is good and we should implement it. Then his library caught fire. We have prepared this. These are available in the committee of Ramesh Silva. Political parties are also looking at this. We have competent young member of parliaments. We can implement this within 2 to 3 months.
මේවා ඔක්කොම දැන් රොමේෂ් සිල්වා මහත්මයාගේ කමිටුවේ තියෙනවා පක්ෂවලින් එනවා මේවා සලකලා බලලා අපේ ඉන්නවා දක්ෂ තරුණ മന്ത്രിවරු මාස 2-3ක් ඇතුළත මේක පුළුවන් අපිට නියම කරගන්න. මොකද මේක ඔක්කොම සකස් කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
The Inter-University Student Federation says that the country's problems are far from over.
යමෙකුට හිතෙන්නට පුළුවන් දැන් මේ රටේ තිබුණු ප්‍රශ්න ටික ඉවර වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
If one thinks the issue in the country have resolved and you can stop protesting because matters are improving, it is not the case. I should remind you, what you see in the surface level is not the reality. The economic crisis in the country has not changed. The fact that the political leaders are looking at various ways to overcome this challenge is also not changed. They are deceiving us. They believe that by deceiving people, they can continue to do what they did through the current system. The problems in the country remains unresolved.
ඒක එහෙම නොවෙන්න තමයි අපි මේ ආදරයෙන් ඔබට සිහිපත් කරන්නේ. තාමත් ලංකාවේ තිබුණු ප්‍රශ්න ටික එලෙසම තියෙනවා කියන්නේ.
The chairman of Litro, Mudita Piri, stated that gas prices will be reduced again from midnight on Monday.
This would be the second price reduction by Litro after assuring stocks of gas to the local market. The chairman of Litro Gas, Mudita Pirish, said price revision will take place based on the recently introduced fuel price formula and the fluctuation of the world market prices. He said the new prices of all domestic gas cylinders will be announced on Monday.
A member of the Frontline Socialist Party arrived at the Terrorism Investigation Unit to provide statement on an investigation conducted regarding a purchase of a SIM card.
Last night, police provided with a letter and requested to arrive at the Terrorism Investigation Unit. There is a SIM under my name used by another person, they say. They have summoned me to know more details.
This
is not about finding information. This is about inciting fear. For that, the President, Prime Minister and Minister of Public Security are using the police. The problem we have is police is operating on public funds and they are wasting the public funds by summoning various people. If the government wants people to stop protesting, this is not the way and it will not stop.
Ministry of Public Administration, Home Affairs, Provincial Councils and Local Government stated the government's decision to cap the retirement age for the public sector at age 60 will not apply to the doctors, nurses, engineers and several other professions.
Secretary to the Ministry of Public Administration, Home Affairs, Provincial Council and Local Government, MMP K. Maya Dune, in a statement said that a cabinet memorandum will be moved to amend the retirement cap for those professions to 63. He said that for other sectors in the public service, all those over the age of 60 years will be sent on retirement with effect from the 31st of December 2022 and the respective circular will be issued within 2 weeks. Accordingly, over 20,000 employees in public services will be sent on retirement by the end of 2020.
Chief of Staff to the President and Senior Advisor to the President on National Security, Sagala Ratnayaka, instructed the officials to provide prompt solutions to the problems pertaining to fuel, gas and paddy issues in the country.
Chief of Staff to the President and Senior Advisor to the President on National Security, Sagala Ratnayaka, issued these instructions during a discussion held at the Presidential Secretariat on Thursday. The Senior Advisor to the President gave priority to the kerosene issue and gave instructions to solve the matter as a priority issue. Sagala Ratnayaka instructed the officials to speed up the purchase of paddy and to improve the paddy storage facility. The current gas crisis was also discussed at the meeting and necessary steps were taken to resolve the existing problems related to gas purchase, import and distribution.
Up next is Crime Watch.
Crime Watch.
A 47-year-old man was gunned down in Satos Matagama in mid-Denio on Thursday night. Sri Lanka police said an unknown gunman had opened fire at the victim at around 9:30 p.m. on Thursday night when returning home via a by-road. Police said that the deceased was connected to a shooting incident that resulted in the death of a man in 2017.
Crime Watch.
A 70-year-old man was beaten to death in Ratmalana on Thursday night. Sri Lanka police said a family dispute was the motive for the murder.
Crime Watch.
Sri Lanka's Health Minister Keheliya Rambukwella issued an extraordinary gazette revising the maximum retail price on 43 medical devices and chemicals. According to the extraordinary gazette, a revised MRP was introduced for intraocular lenses and lenses with delivery systems. The MRP for glucose monitoring devices and pulse oximeters have also been revised via this extraordinary gazette. Sirasa TV and the Education Minister joined hands to launch a program to create one of the longest paintings in Sri Lanka. The painting will be designed by school students and today's leg took place at the Pudukuripu Central College in Mullaitivu. United We Stand is the theme for the longest painting by Sri Lankan school children that is being created for World Children's Day 2022, which falls on the 1st of October. This work of art is expected to be 1,000 feet long, and the launch of the painting took place at the Independence Square in Colombo on Wednesday. 2 paintings from each of the 25 districts will be brought together to create one massive painting. In international news, Australia is raising its cap on permanent migration for the first time in a decade to help fill massive workforce shortages.
It will take up to 195,000 people this financial year, an increase of 35,000. The pandemic and Australia's tough border policies have exacerbated staffing gaps in many sectors. The government says workers from countries including China, India and the United Kingdom, Australia's top sources of migration, are needed to fill them. There are more than 480,000 job vacancies across the country, but with unemployment at almost 50-year low, the employers are struggling to fill the gaps. The hospitality, healthcare, agriculture and skilled trade industries have been particularly hard hit.
A man has been arrested after appearing to point a gun at Argentina's former president outside her home.
Footage shared by local media appears to show a man in a crowd point a gun at the face of the vice president, but the weapon does not fire. The former president was not hurt in the incident outside her Buenos Aires home. The politician is in the midst of a corruption trial and was returning from court. She denies the charges. In recent days, hundreds of protesters have gathered in support outside the 69-year-old's home in the capital. Argentina's economic minister called the attempted shooting an attempted assassination.
Scientists have unearthed in Zimbabwe the remains of Africa's oldest dinosaur, which lived more than 230 million years ago.
The Mabairosaurus rati was 1 meter tall, ran on 2 legs and had a long neck and jagged teeth. Scientists said it was a species of Sauropodomorpho, a relative of the sauropod, which walked on 4 legs. The skeleton was discovered during 2 expeditions in 2017 and 2019 to the Zambezi Valley. Darlington Munyekiwa, Deputy Director of National Museums and Monuments of Zimbabwe, and who was a part of the expedition, told foreign media, quote, "When we talk of evolution of early dinosaurs, fossils from the Triassic age are rare," end quote. He said that fossils from that era, which ended more than 200 million years ago, had been unearthed in South America, India and now Zimbabwe. He said the find is expected to shed more light on evolution and migration of early dinosaurs back when the world was one huge continent and Zimbabwe was at the same latitude as those countries.
In your sports news, Sri Lanka beat Bangladesh by 2 wickets in their final Group League game to progress to the Super Fours of the Asia Cup on Thursday. Sent to bat first, Bangladesh scored 183 runs for the loss of 7 wickets, but Sri Lanka overhauled the target with 4 balls to spare, reaching 184 for 8. Sri Lanka won the toss and elected to bowl first. Both the teams faced a defeat against Afghanistan in their opening clash.
The batsman at the other end as well.
Mehdi Hasan Miraz with 38 gave Bangladesh a flying start despite wickets falling at the other end.
This might be out as well. This should be a simple catch.
Bangladesh managed to post a total of 183 runs for the loss of 7 wickets in their allotted 20 overs. Afif Hussain with 39 stitched a 57-run partnership with Mahmudullah Riyad after Bangladesh were reeling at 87 for 4. Chasing a target of 184 runs, Sri Lanka held their nerves to reach the target in 19.2 overs against Bangladesh and qualified for Super Fours at the Asia Cup. Sri Lanka's chase was boosted by opener Mendes' 34-ball 60 runs and skipper Dasun Shanaka's 33-ball 45 runs, as they did not let pressure get them.
He's got a fifth, such an important fifth. This is over the offside, it's a good shot. Respective country. Oh, it's instant with 3 balls to spare. And look what it made, snowball, and they knew it. Celebration starts. And they are dancing. as Fernando. The umpires are holding their arms up saying just to the Super Fours. What a run chase. Winning by 2 wickets here, but a very important win. Lanka to try and qualify for the Super Fours. They've huffed and puffed, both teams huffed.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Lunchtime News on TV1. For details of the stories and much more, simply log on to our website, www.newsfirst.lk. For the News First, where the people come first, I'm Martin Satyanesan. You take care and stay safe.